Well, hello, welcome one and all. Chronicles presents a new little project we're doing where we're going to meet up with some interesting people in and around London and find out about some of their favourite places. So I'm here today, it's the 19th of January 2019 in a rather chilly Whitechapel outside the temporary entrance at the moment to Whitechapel Station to meet Mr. Louis Berk. So Louis, hello.
Hi.
Fancy seeing you here.
Yes.
I met Louis, met Louis online a few years ago. First time we've ever actually met in person.
Yes, that's
so
true.
Good to see you, Louis. So where are we off to today, Louis?
Well, I like to challenge people's perceptions about what Whitechapel is really like. And for that reason, I thought today what we'd do is take a look at the Art Deco buildings of Whitechapel, which are some very fine examples. I thought that would make a great way to sort of start the series.
Sounds good, yeah, because obviously people hear Whitechapel, they think Jack the Ripper, Victorian slums.
Yes.
So yeah, there's much more to it.
Absolutely.
Let's go and find some of that.
Brilliant. Yeah.
So we're around the back of the Royal London Hospital, Louis. I know the Good Samaritan pub very well, but the Gwyn House is not quite so much, so tell me.
Right. Gwyn House is probably at the top of my list of favourite buildings in Whitechapel. And I said before, one of the things I like to do is challenge people's perceptions. When I first walked down Turner Street, I couldn't quite believe that there is this beautiful example of modern Art Deco architecture in the middle of an area which, before it was redeveloped, was obviously largely Victorian and Georgian. Of course it piqued my curiosity, apart from the fact that it is a very beautiful building. In America they actually call this style nautical modern. And one of the reasons for that is, you can see it has this sort of classic streamlined nautical feel.
Porthole windows.
Yes, porthole windows, which is absolutely fascinating. And that led me to investigate the designer. It was designed in 1934, designed and built in 1934, for the Royal London Hospital as accommodation for doctors and nurses. It was designed by a Scotsman called Hume Victor Kerr, H.V. Kerr, who has quite an interesting history. And I'll tell you a bit more about that when we move on to one of these other buildings. The original building was going to, the original site was actually going to be a biscuit factory, but the planning commission was turned down, and that's why it became an apartment block. It was owned by the hospital until I think about the 1990s, and then it was sold off to be private apartments because, oddly enough, doctors and nurses didn't want to live that close to the hospital.
I can understand that. As a nurse myself, I can understand that. There's no excuse when you get asked for a last-minute shift, really, if you're just over the road, is there?
Yeah. Actually, I had no idea. I presume the Gwyn does refer to Nelbury, but I don't actually know the real reason for that.
Second friend.
Yes, possibly. But anyway, a beautiful piece of architecture and pretty much in all original condition. I think we should move on and have a look at another piece which is just down the road.
Perfect. We're here now outside the works entrance to Comfort House in Nelson Street. Louis has just been telling me as well, also a bit further down Nelson Street, we've got one of the few remaining synagogues in the area.
Yeah.
But we're going to have a look at Comfort House in a minute, but I just want to have a quick chat about yourself first, Louis. So, if you don't mind me saying, recently retired?
Yes, that's
Not
right.
giving any secrets away there.
True.
Head teacher, was it?
No, I was head of sixth form.
Head of sixth form at Swanley School in Whitechapel.
Yes,
So
in
that's how
Braden
you came to be interested in the area, was it, when you moved
absolutely.
to? Yeah. Okay. And before that, because obviously with your books, and we'll talk about the tours that you're doing a bit later, you're very into photography. I've always wondered, have you got any background in photography before you went into teaching? Or is it...
No, I mean, I've been taking photographs since I was very young. I've always had an interest in photography. And when I took up the position in Whitechapel, I realised I was just in an area with fantastic photographic opportunities. Don McCullum, one of my heroes, says that Whitechapel is one of the most interesting places in London, if not in the UK. Admittedly, he was photographing in the 1990s. but there's so much history invested in these buildings that as somebody interested in photography, I just wanted to take my camera out every opportunity I had.
And that's where Walk to Work came from, which
Yes,
is how I
exactly,
first became aware of it.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I did a project for about 4 or 5 years where I literally walked from the city to Whitechapel as many days as I could, not every day, but repeating the same photographs again and again to try and capture how landscape changes over time. And that was an interesting work. That was followed up by a project which I did next door to my school in the Jewish graveyard there in Brady Street, which took me again about 3 or 4 years. And that was my first commercially published, well, actually it was my second commercially published work. Before that, I did a book with the tour guide Rachel Kolsky, quite famous Blue Badge tour guide, called Whitechapel in 50 Buildings, which in fact, Gwyn House was one of those buildings in that book. So Whitechapel's been very good to me. It's allowed me to actually turn from enthusiast to professional, and publish books, sell my photography, stock photography out of the area quite successfully.
Excellent. So, shall we pop across the road and have a better look at Comfort House then?
Yeah, sure. Brilliant.
So, Comfort House then, Louis?
Yeah, this is another building that was designed by H.V. Kerr, built in I think also in about the 1930s, I don't have the exact date. Built as a clothing factory. That's why we were standing by the work section, because obviously that's the place where the workers came in.
Still a clothing shop, appropriately enough.
Yeah, it is actually. The upper stories are now an apartment building. Again, it's this beautiful Art Deco design. We've got the lovely fluted floors, and then the beautiful angled corners with the angled windows set into them. Either side, you might be able to see it just in the just over at the end there, we have the staircase. We had another one on the work section. So again, this beautiful light patterns in it, going from pretty much the first floor all the way to the top. Clothing factory is kind of interesting. Obviously, it relates to the fact that there was a large garment trade here. People said in the area the schmutter trade, a Yiddish word. I'd like to say a few things about H.V. Kerr because he's an interesting character. He managed to serve in both world wars.
Okay.
He joined up at the age of 17. He joined the London Scottish. Of course, he was underage. He died that day. And he even went to France for about 5 months in 1915, and then he was sent back home again. He eventually joined the Royal Artillery, and he ended the war as a major. He actually got commissioned. He was mentioned in dispatches. Had a very illustrious career in the artillery. Speciality being in the air, anti-aircraft. So he went off. He became an architect. He actually became a fellow of the Royal Institute of Architecture. And then he was in the reserve. He resigned the reserve in 1939 and joined the Royal Artillery again as a gunner, and was found out fairly quickly and commissioned as a captain.
Realised he was a bit overqualified.
Yeah, that's right. And he ended up at the end of the Second World War as a Lieutenant Colonel.
Wow.
So a warrior architect. Yes. An interesting combination.
Many of them.
What we're going to do now is we're going to have a look at another building, a very similar factory, Cheviot House, which is beautiful. Another fine example of Art Deco.
So a lot of these Art Deco buildings in the area were industrial then, were they?
Yeah, I think Gwyn House is actually. I'm going to take you to one other Art Deco apartment building, which will be over behind Whitechapel Road. But yeah, lots of them were fabulous. So we walk around the corner here, and we're actually standing outside Cheviot House this time. In some ways, a similar building to Comfort House. It was built in 1937 for a textile manufacturer called Kornberg and Siegel, and it was designed by an architect called C.G. Wimborne. Again, you can see these beautiful fluted levels going across the building, a lot of glass, very common in Art Deco, and actually at the end is a beautiful glass atrium that goes all the way up the building, which adds that beautiful angular feature. Cheviot House has some interesting history as well. After the Second World War, it was bought up by Stepney Borough Council. It's a steel framed building, and it was decided to reinforce the steel frame so that the building could become the command centre for Stepney Borough Council in the event of nuclear attack.
Wow.
Yeah. Quite why it would still be standing after a nuclear blast hit the area, I don't know. But I guess it was the optimism of local authorities that it would be. But it has that interesting history. In the early noughties, Tower Hamlets Council that owned the building decided they wanted to actually knock it down and redevelop the entire site with apartment blocks, and that was heavily opposed, both by the local community who liked it, and also by various interest groups like the 20th Century Society. Mainly because this is one of the few, this is actually the only remaining industrial building designed by C.G. Wimborne. And he's an interesting guy because most of his buildings still standing are actually quite really sort of luxury buildings that he built for the Hampstead set. So he's a bit out of his area for this particular building. And I think you can tell just looking at it, I mean, it's a beautiful building to observe.
In the more modern building next door, sort of mirrored the atrium idea on the end. I don't know if that's deliberate or not.
Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, it's blended in very nicely at the end of the day. We're going to walk around the corner, and actually we're going to have a look at some scaffolding. It's quite an interesting
I've been
building
waiting all day for that, Louis.
that's going to be refurbished.
Brilliant.
I'll show you.
Sounds good. So, Louis, latest book, Secret Whitechapel. How did you end up working with Rachel Holskicks? You did Whitechapel 50 buildings with her yourself as well, didn't you? How did that come about?
Yeah, I was introduced to her when I was working on the cemetery, Brady Street. The owners of Brady Street told me I had to speak to Rachel because she was the authority on the cemetery from a historical point of view.
You ended up at the cemetery for quite some time.
Yes. Yeah, I only meant to photograph in there for a year, but at the time I wanted to take, I wanted to do a seasonal treatment throughout the year, but it was in the early part of this decade, and there was no snow for 2 years, and I wanted snow in the cemetery, so I kept on going back and back until the winter came when we had snow and I could photograph, so I wasn't there for some time. When Amberley offered to publish the cemetery work, they sent me the list of publications. One of them was in 50 buildings, the other was Secret. And I immediately knew that with my photography and Rachel's expertise, we could put together Whitechapel. So it was really quite good.
They're very good, and much like what we're talking about today, they do give that sense of, well, there is a bit more to the area than just Victorian slums. So, Louis, why are we outside the scaffolding?
Yeah, it's a shame you can't see the building itself, though we can see here a picture of what it's going to look like. This is Empire House, which is the third building of H.V. Kerr in the area. Again, built as a clothing factory. I think one of the really great things is that it's being refurbished. It's not being knocked down, which would be a real shame. It is a statement at the time. It's again related to the heritage of the garment industry in this area, and it is actually a beautiful building in its own right. Again, with these fantastic glazed exteriors, beautiful stairwells going up, and a very evocative name, Empire House itself. So this is something I'm looking forward to photographing when it's actually completed.
Done, yeah.
It's going to be great, I think. And it's great that they're not removing these buildings. It would be so easy for Tower Hamlets to just say, well, okay, knock it down, redevelop the site.
It'd be worth a lot as well if they did.
Yeah. It's really great. It's really clear.
It's a surprising amount around here.
Well, we're going to finish up by looking at another apartment building just behind Whitechapel Road, which again is
Perfect.
Very nice piece of are now at Evening House. It's on the corner of Old Montague Street and Greater Street. Two really central Whitechapel streets have a lot of history associated. There's not a lot known about Evening House. It was, in fact, I've never been able to track down the architect, and I've never been able to find a really clear explanation for why it's called Evening. The thing that occurs to me is John Evening, who has a very tenuous connection to Whitechapel, but really, I'm not too sure. But the reason why I like it so much is it's a statement of its time. I mean, Old Montague Street was, until the 1960s, was on this side pure slum. In fact, on both sides it was pure slum. It was the centre of the Jewish community. Synagogue, Evening House here, the Garden Synagogue in Greater Street. But to put up a brand new building like this must have seemed like the absolute height of luxury in this area. Big windows, beautifully put into the building. This beautiful angle use of the land, the brickwork, which was very tasteful, even the extension at the top of the building. So it fascinates me as a building. I'd love to know more about it. I'd love to know really where the name comes from, but unfortunately the records are very, very vague about this. Not too sure I'll ever really know. If anybody does know, when you publish it,
get in touch.
get in touch.
You were saying when we were walking down that at some point you'd like to get to Reba and research H.B. Kerr a bit more, and you have a feeling there might be more of his buildings around, so I suppose you never know.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, that's never occurred to me before, but yeah, I mean, it might be one of his.
Well, it's been a very interesting hour and a half or so walk around Whitechapel this morning. Thanks for coming along, Louis.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
A few buildings that I've certainly probably walked past in the past, but never really noticed. We're just going to finish off. We're here in Valence Gardens, just talking about William Booth and his tent.
Yes, which was actually pitched here and then got blown away in the wind and forced him finally into opening his mission in a building just down the road here in New Road. Yeah.
So, what's next, Louis? Doors, I hear.
Ah, yes.
This is you and Rachel again.
Yes, me and Rachel are doing another book together for Mango Books. It's going to be published, I hope, sometime in about March, April. It's called Whitechapel Doors. It's actually born out of a bit of an obsession of mine. When I went back through my catalogue of photographs, I've got about 50,000 photographs of Whitechapel. I found that I'd actually been photographing a lot of doors, because again, the architecture of Whitechapel, as you know, goes all the way from the early 18th century all the way through to modern architecture. And I thought it would be interesting to tell the history of Whitechapel by looking at doors and the way doors have changed, the stories behind the doors. So visually, that was the creative part of it.
Behind the doors, I like that.
Yeah. Visually, I wanted to show these doors, because some of them are really magnificent, some of them are very utilitarian, some of them are very historical. And then Rachel has actually written a narrative that explains the history behind it. Yeah.
And photography tours, fellow tour guide these days as well. How's that going?
That's going quite well. I generally tend just to offer those to photographic clubs as a way of introducing them to the area. And we basically walk from Liverpool Street to Whitechapel. Sometimes if it's on Sunday, we go into the Brady Street Cemetery, and that's a great place to photograph. So yeah, that's going quite well. Yeah.
So you can get access into Brady Street on a Sunday, can you?
No, well, the access is actually through me.
You can, because you're there. Yeah, I thought so. I was going to say, years ago I tried to get in there and I certainly couldn't. Well, I might have to come along with you one time.
Okay, that'd be great.
Excellent. Well, all the best, Louis, and thank you.
Well, great,
and so, thanks for watching. Keep your eye out for some more of these videos in the future. If you want to, check out chronicles-uk.com, check out the tours we're offering there, and check out louisberk.com. Is that right?
Yeah.
For Louis' books such as Secret Whitechapel. Keep an eye out for the doors. books, Whitechapel doors. Books on Amazon, aren't they? And I'm sure in
Yeah.
other more traditional outlets as well. But for now, thank you everybody. Thanks for watching. See you on the streets.